Hi, I'm Michelle Byer. I'm the executive director here at Ascend, and we are peer run. What peer run means is that everyone that works here or volunteers has a mental illness or a addiction issue, or I should say we're in recovery. I am dual, and that means I have drug and alcohol recovery in my background. I'm 14 years sober. I also have a mental illness diagnosis. So I have bipolar, anxiety, and I have a lot of other things in my background. My addiction started very late in life. I was married, I had two children, and I started drinking at the age of 37. I used to go to PTO meetings. I was very, very active in the school. And after PTO meetings, the girls would always meet at this one place and we would have a drink. I did not like the taste of alcohol. I did start gaining that taste for alcohol. So once a month, I would have Diet Coke and vodka. And then it started where I really liked it and I would just keep drinking and drinking. And it went from monthly to a couple weeks, every other week, because I would go out with a couple girlfriends that were divorced and I had introduced them together because when the dads took their kids, they, wanted to go out. So I started going out with them every couple weeks, every week, and then it became daily. And I enjoyed the fact that men were starting to look at me and paying attention. And it just spiraled so fast. And in 1 year, I can't tell you, I started losing everything. My ex-husband emptied the house of all the alcohol, tried to get me into a rehab, a day program rehab, and I wouldn't do it. I told them I didn't have a problem. They actually laughed at me. Now I know why. I didn't think I had a problem. My dad's an alcoholic. I called my dad and I said, Dad, everybody says I have a problem with alcohol. He goes, Do you think you do? I said, No. He goes, Well, then you don't. And I'm like, Okay, Dad, my recovering alcoholic said, you don't have a problem. So I don't. What I did not know is, unless you think you have a problem, you don't. You have to come up with that decision all on your own. But it took about 6 years of losing everything. The last year of my drinking, I received my third DUI. And with that, I stopped paying my rent because I lost my house. I was counted in the homeless count that year. And from there, I ended up getting raped. I was taking a cab to a bar back and forth. They gave me a different cab driver on my way home. And all I remember is him jumping over the back of the seat. I remember nothing else. I don't remember going in the house. I don't remember anything. When the detective came over, that's when my now husband said, please, please go to rehab. So I went to rehab and then I ended up going to jail. Um, the judge, he sentenced me to 6 months in jail, 5 years loss of license. I was planning on fleeing the state and going to Florida, which meant I was never going to see my kids. Thank goodness that my husband talked me up a bit because here I am today. You know, I'm planning my daughter's wedding for June 1st, 2024. So I'm going to get to see grandbabies. There's so much. I'm an executive director of an organization. Who would have thought that I went from being homeless in jail to being an executive director of an organization?
Hello, Trina Pittman, Respite Coordinator at Ascend. I am in mental health recovery. I was first diagnosed in 1999. Um, I didn't know anything about mental health. I didn't understand it. I gave birth to my daughter, and she was probably about, we'll say about 4 months old. And one day I was taking care of her, and all of a sudden I freaked out. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I started breathing really heavy, and I thought that she was dying. I thought that I was going to die. And what was happening to me is I was having an anxiety attack. And I called my sister and I told her that I started to remember a lot of very vivid memories of, um, like I said, some childhood trauma. And I didn't understand it. No one around me was understanding it, but I knew something was wrong. I didn't feel right. I was laughing and crying. I was just full of a ton of emotion. Um, I was going back and forth to the hospitals all the time. I just kept saying something's wrong with me. I don't understand what it is. I was trying to tell family members, friends, and no one got it. No one understood it. And then finally, I came across a doctor and they talked to me about mental health. This was when Nova was still around. And I was referred to Nova for mental health services. And that's when I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression and bipolar, which later I was found out that I was misdiagnosed. Um, but I was put on antidepressant, and but I went almost 3 years of not being medicated. Life was not easy. Felt inadequate as a mother, as a partner, as a family member, as a friend. It was hard to maintain employment because I was constantly calling off. I didn't feel good all the time. I isolated. I had social anxiety really bad. I couldn't go to family events. Things just progressively got worse in my life. I graduated college, but I was just barely functioning. I was barely getting by. Um, it got to the point where I got so severely depressed one time that I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. This was like for 2 weeks straight. And I remember my first attempt of suicide. I was in the bathroom and my daughter was gone at her dad's, and I had a bottle of pills in my hand, and I didn't understand suicide. I didn't know anything about that. Um, but I filled my mouth with a bottle of pills, and I remember getting up and I looked out of the back window and I seen one of my daughters, one of her bikes. And I spit the pills out. And I remember it was a weekend and I called community services the next day and I got myself into counseling. But fast forward through all of this, um, it's affected my life in a lot of ways, my mental health. It's, I've been really blessed because of being in this field of work where I always say is a very forgiving and understanding field. Um, because I've been able to miss a lot of work. I have had a lot of very supportive coworkers. I've had amazing insurance where I've been able to receive the proper medical care and mental health services. it still affects me. There's a lot of days it's hard for me to get up and out of bed. It's hard for me to communicate with people. I feel like I've failed as a mother. I still have a lot of guilt because I feel like I've missed out a lot of my daughter's childhood because I spent a lot of time in bed. Um, I didn't go places. I didn't do things with her. Uh, there's just, it's just not, it hasn't been easy at all in more ways than one. Um, but like I said, I just cannot begin to express my gratitude um, for the mental health field in more ways than one for the services that I've received and being able to serve others. But that's how I feel like I'm able to provide services for those that I have served and those that I will continue to serve. On the flip side of things, I've had my daughter's father, who is now deceased. Um, he he at the time that he passed, he was a recovered heroin addict, and I was with him throughout his addiction. It was a bittersweet kind of it helped me to become better at this position because now I understand drug addiction very well, unfortunately. Although I don't use, a lot of times I feel like I have behaviors and understanding of an addict without using the drug because I was exposed to it so much. I I know all the signs of it. To this day with any drug, I know. Uh, and I don't say that proudly, but in ways I do because I've been able to help so many people along the way. I can't even begin to describe the hell that I went through and the pain and suffering that it caused, being in love with an addict and having a child with an addict, um, the trauma that comes along with it. There's a lot of hurt. There's still a lot of hurt. There's still so many unanswered questions. There's a lot of blame. There's a lot of criminal activity that's involved. There's still guilt that I have of times that I went out and got the drugs for him so that he wasn't sick. And there's one thing that I always said and wished that he would, if he ever died, I always thought he would die of an overdose. But he didn't. He ended up dying of pneumonia, which I'm still angry and bitter with him because I believe had he taken better care of his health, he would still be here today. But I believe overall that God has blessed me with the ability to experience these things so that I am able to help those that we serve. Like I said, although I don't have that personal experience as an addict myself, um, in a way I do. But I would say my mental health recovery is an ongoing thing and always will be. No matter how much I educate myself, no matter how much I train myself, no matter how many people I help, it's just still some days never, ever enough. Because there's days you feel like you have nothing to look forward to because everything you felt like you had at one time is gone. But recovery is a forever thing. There is recovery. I always heard of recovery and I thought of addiction, but you don't understand that being in recovery for mental health is just as important, if not even more important. So there is help, and we are here to help those in need. And I wish that I would have known about services that we offer, especially in the darkest times that I had. And I love that we're able to be here for people that need us.